Hello once again, my name is Emmanuel Akura, and you're watching Matters Arising on RTM, a show where we bring all the latest topics that are happening in the world of politics, being it Christian, being it whatever it is that is coming that is controversial, that we think is very important for us to bring to you. We bring it here on this show, and then we sit together, analyze it, and look at ways in which we can be able to, resolve some of these things amicably and in ways that everyone will be happy about. And today, as usual, the usual suspect I have with me, my co-host, my brother, my mentor, my spiritual mentor. I say that a lot of times. Akinkunle Akinola. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm fine. Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel. I think it's another great opportunity for us coming together again to come and discuss on matters arising.
Yeah.
And I actually looked back, just like a reflection to what happened last week, and I feel like it's actually a good trend for us to. And it's always a great privilege being here with you because this is actually a program. We're not trying to condemn anybody,
No, we're
but
just
we're
trying
trying to
to,
bring up ideas. We
ideas and
reason
then
together, and
insight
then
into some of these
insight into some of all these things. And we know that when insight actually comes, we shed more lights. People may not be able to see from one perspective. You know, so many times when we're confronted with issues, I tend to look at it from my side. But with this program, we look at it from both ways.
ways.
Then we now create a balance, and I think it's actually a good one. Matters arising.
What my mentor is saying is that we're not we try to look at it, and we're not impartial when it comes to where I mean we have to be impartial. You know, impartiality is what we have to look at when it comes to this issue. That is, we have to be fair to both the people involved, being it from the government perspective, being it from the masses perspective. We have to look at both of them equally and be able to give everybody equal opportunity and equal defense also when it comes to this topic. And now, there's been a lot of stories that are going
A
on.
whole lot of
A whole
stories.
lot of
And I won't
things.
lie to you, I'm really, really excited with what we have today because these are really, really
Really.
issues that we really need to look into. And I also want to use this medium to say to the viewers actually watching, perhaps you have your own concerns and all those things. On our Facebook page, you can just go there, drop your comments. We will revisit some of the comments. Like one of the comments, I don't know if we can quickly look at it. The one we actually spoke about South Africa, the president of Nigeria with the president of South Africa actually meeting, and then these two people actually coming together, the two nations come together. And somebody actually said, we know what the problem is. The leaders are the problem. I don't
And it's true. Like, no, I said it here before that I have a theory, which was my own theory. It wasn't proven by anyone, but I felt I should just let people know that. To me, I feel we only react based on what we see.
That's
And
right.
what we hear. And a lot of people who don't know what government is, they only hear and listen to the leaders. The leaders who are supposed to understand what the government is about and what government duties and responsibilities
That's
are.
right, yeah.
You know, they just, when you hear your leader say that these people are a problem, believe me, the followers
Everybody
will,
runs.
you understand. So
That's
I
correct.
totally agree with what they say. And then looking at some of the stories that are also coming, we have a whole lot of stories that are coming in the world of politics, and being it in the Christian world, we have the Emmy of Kano Sanusi came out and said that Nigerians' population is a liability. To his defense, though, some of the points that he gave were, way
Valid reasons,
taken,
yeah.
and because the headline, when you look at the headline, you will blame him that why would he say something like this?
Something
But
like
when you
that,
go
yeah.
deep into it,
Yeah,
you
you
would then have a
see.
different angle of it also. We also have a controversial US pastor, Greg. Greg was a pastor. Remember, his radio station was closed in Rwanda because he went on the radio and said that all women are evil. The women are evil. So he treated that topic, and the government apparently were not happy about it, and he was banned. The radio was closed, and now he came and tried to hold a press conference in the country and to just debunk some of the rumors and some of the things that are coming from the government. And the government arrested him, and they discovered that his visa has actually expired, and he
so
was deported also. So those are some of the stories that we have for you. We also have Singapore to ban sugary drink in the fight against diabetes. We have Trump. He says he will cooperate with impeachment probe if the right of his party is guaranteed. So these are the few stories. What do you have to say about some of the stories that we just
we actually have great stories in here today, and I want to believe that if we can actually look at it, like you actually said, we don't look at some of all these issues on the surface. We need to really go deeper.
Deep into
And
it.
then once we go deeper into it, we tend to put in our own opinions and our own views.
Yes.
And however, we just say, okay, this is what we think. We're not here to judge anybody. We're not here to condemn any government, knowing fully well that when we condemn governments, we're trying to condemn ourselves. However, we respect them, but we just want to say these are matters arising that we actually need to talk about. We're talking about them not because we want to say
Judge
whatever
them,
it is. Judge. We're not
crucify them.
trying to
No, we're not
crucify. We're
doing
not
that.
trying to proselytize anyone. However, we're trying to say, okay, this and this and this. If we can put so and so in place, and I want to believe you also watching there, you pick one or two things that will actually help you. And I don't know which story we're actually going to start with because all of these things they
And
really need attention.
let's look at the first story first. The Nigerian population is
A
a
liability.
liability, and because this story has polarized Nigeria as a nation, has divided views right now, where a lot of people are saying what he said. And then just to quickly mention some of the things that he said, he said Nigeria's population is currently a liability because most of the root cause of problems such as kidnapping, armed robbery, Boko Haram, drug addiction are all tied to the population that we have. And the question is, how do you turn that into a productive one?
Yeah, I think if we look at it from this perspective now, that how do we take the things that we see as disadvantage and making an
Into
advantage out of them? I think if we look at it from that perspective, is right.
Yeah.
But looking at the headline only, Nigeria's population a liability. We just want to,
You
what
go
are you
like,
trying to
so
talk
we're
about?
not, we're not.
You actually understand. And most of the time, when people actually make statements, you know the power of press. They just take a line out of
And
it,
then they
out of
will,
context, you know, they turn everything around. But if we look at what he is trying to say, and it's in every nation, we can't say because of the population. Let's bring everything down to percentage. Let's put them on percentage scale. You see that whatever is even happening here in Nigeria, the same thing is everywhere, but it's just because our population is that much. Though we have some countries that they have higher population than us, and they are able to curtail all of those things. Now let's bring it back to terms now. If there's adequate jobs and all these things, you know, we won't be talking about what we are actually talking about today, because everybody will be working. There won't be kidnaps, there won't be rapes and all those things.
so
And
who are we to blame them? Because if you look at what he's saying here and some of the things that he outlined, that I just outlined for you there, you look at it, we have India, we have China, that have larger
larger
population
population than
compared to
Nigeria.
Nigeria. But some of these people are able to manage it very well. So when it comes to Nigeria, what do you think the problem is? Because like he is saying, to me, I feel the government is to be blamed for what is happening. Because if there are no adequate jobs, if there are no business opportunities for the population, obviously you're going to, the things like these are going to come up. Seeing people kidnapping, seeing people, turning into drugs, see
And the
people because
likes,
of
yeah.
desperation. So, what do you think the problem of this population that he mentioned is?
Okay, so bringing it back to terms now, like what you actually said, we look at some of all those things. If there had been adequate opportunities, people will not tend to do some of all those things. Knowing fully well that people will actually want to take the fastest cut, as we call it, shortcuts and the like. And knowing fully well we are also in the microwave generation. What is the next thing that I can actually do to put money in my pocket and the things like that? Though we're not encouraging acts like that. And one other thing you also said is the part of the government. And if you remember one of the programs we said, we need to study statistics. We need to study trends. Okay, let's take United States as an example. Every year they give out 50,000 or 55,000 US visa lottery. And they are not having problems like this. Even if they have problems like this, they are contained in such a way that it's not going out of hand. And it shows that lack of preparation on our own aspect, because we are not seeing into the future. When we see into the future, we plan properly. Then we know that, okay, by 2020, we should be able to create 3 million more jobs. That is to say, if we create 3 million jobs, maybe the private or the public sector, or the government sector, it means we're taking out 3 million people out of the street, you understand, giving them something to do. Then we're not going to end there. Then we now go, okay, by 2025 or 2030, what is the population? People are getting married, people are giving birth, people are dying on a daily
Every
basis.
day.
You understand? So
Yeah.
it actually calls for consciousness for us to look into the future foresee some of all these things, make adequate preparations. Because if we make adequate preparations, I'm telling you, nobody is going to say, I want to go into kidnapping. They're going into kidnapping just to get money
There is
from it.
something that sorry. There's something that I want us to look at. Julius Malema once said something. He said that these old people who who are ruling us on this continent,
They're out of
they don't
ideas.
have a vision. These are his words. They don't have a vision, because how can you expect somebody who knows that he's going to invest in 5 years that he's not going to be here? These were the things he was saying. So now I picked something up from there, that some of these presidents, not that they're so clueless, but some of them are thinking about, what can I do now to win me vote tomorrow, right? They're not thinking about, what can I do in 10 years or 20 years to come, even if when I'm not here, the country will benefit from, right? That is how you actually build communities.
That's right.
Because if you are thinking about communities that in 10, 15, 20 years to come, the people should start experiencing the manifestation of the work that you have put in place, right? But then if you are a leader who don't see that, then how do you see? Because right now we have a Buhari who, well, a Buhari who to me, I think he's slow when it comes to implementing some of the ideas that he said he had for Nigeria. And we're seeing ourselves where the proliferation of crime in Nigeria is increasing on a daily basis. We're seeing people are being kidnapped, people are being killed. There's rape, there's these here and there in Nigeria. It wasn't like this before, but now it's much. So, what then do you think is the short-term goal that Nigeria can be able to work towards bringing their people together in ways in which we can reduce some of this?
You see, back to where you actually picked it up from. Let's look at it from the aspect of the leaders now. Everybody will come with their manifesto.
Okay.
This is what I will do. This is what
In
I
10
will
years to
do.
come, or
In
8
10 years,
years.
do you understand? When the first period is about to face off, and they actually need the second vote, they start doing some of all those things, and that is not right. That is selfishness. Look into the Western world. Everybody wants to create a legacy. If we can all like that it's not about what I get into my pockets now, but I actually want to create a legacy. I want to create a name for myself that in 50 years time, that name is still being mentioned. If we can channel our efforts, our energies towards things like that no, it's not about winning the second vote. It's about what I do, not for myself. Because the moment it's about self, that is selfishness. What will I do to impact the community, to impact the world, to impact my nation, and make sure I create the basic amenities, the things that needs to be done? If we can look at it from that perspective, then we will be able to work selflessly. It won't be like, it's like I'm going to finish my time next year now. I start doing one or two things so people can start seeing, and I'll start showing pictures around. What's the essence of that? So if the leaders can now look at it from that perspective, and another thing we need to also look into, we don't just delve into politics because I want to be a president. Do I have the vision? Do I have the ambition? Do I have right motives? If all these things are not properly dealt with, I'm telling you, we keep putting the wrong people in power.
But yeah, I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. But let's look at it from this angle also. Let's look at it from a different dimension. Now you're talking about leaders, especially in Nigeria. You're talking about leaders that have what we call godfathers.
That's right.
There's that godfatherism in politics in Nigeria. You can't take it away from them. Being it on the local government level, being it on the state level, being it on the federal level, we have these people everywhere. And some people will argue, though, that the moment you can have the manifesto, like you say, and they want to get into power in the next 4 years or 5 years or 6 years or 8 years, because this 4-year term, then you go for second term. And then if you say the 8 years, this is what I plan to achieve. But then you have people who are
Some
slowing you down,
powers.
powerful, like our first lady says that there are Kaba who are running her husband's government. So when you have such people who are telling you, Mr. President, don't you think this is too far? No, you can't do like this. Because what they are thinking is the moment you put all your ideas into one term, the next time you have nothing to offer.
That's right.
So what are you going to promise? Because you and I know very well that since we're coming up in Nigeria, we've been hearing about these basic amenities. And the Nigerian people have been crying for just 3 things. water, road, and electricity.
Electricity.
3 alone. And those 3 are things they are using to campaign. Every year they come here, oh, we're going to give you electricity. Oh, we're going to give you water. Everybody get excited, but then they get into power. So is it not, do you think that's a strategy of them winning elections?
Yeah, you know, politically speaking, people tend to put in something like a last card or a joker that they will always want to use to win the next vote. But if we look at it deeply, all these three things we mentioned is nothing for the government of Nigeria to achieve.
True, I agree. I
But I
totally
want to
agree.
I want to sabotage some effort so that I can use that as my own next launching pad so that I can move into the next phase. But if we have people that are selfless, we know there are cabals. I won't lie to you. Cabals will come to you and they will tell you why and why it's not possible because they actually funded you. If they didn't fund you in the first place, they won't say
They won't
anything to
say
you.
anything
You
to
understand?
you.
So
True.
because they've actually funded you, they've actually put you in that place where you are, they become your godfather.
True.
And when your godfather speaks, the godfather that puts you there know what to do to actually
To
pull you
take
out
you
of
out, you know.
So
And
these are some of the things that these people are actually facing. And that's why we need genuine people to come
people
out.
to come out.
If these guys are genuine, I don't need a godfather to put me there.
I,
I don't
I,
need
I,
a
I,
godfather.
I agree with you. And you know, looking at this topic, I get so many things from this. I don't know if you get the same things that I get. This man was actually talking to government. He was
That's
not
right.
talking to Nigerian population or the masses. He was talking to the government, because if the government of Nigeria, the government of Nigeria don't even have to struggle
Yeah.
for them to put these things in
Just
place.
take advantage of the
Because you
population.
have people here who don't depend on government to do anything for them, who have that spirit, to depend on themselves, to make things happen for themselves, for their families, and then you're finding it difficult. All these people are asking for, I bet you, if the Nigerian government can provide, water, electricity, and road, you will see huge number of Nigerians who are outside going back home,
That's right.
to go back, because they know what they can do in Nigeria to make money. You understand what I'm saying? But then the government is not doing it. It's holding back on these things. And one thing I've come to realize is that it's because they have institutionalized corruption in Nigeria. That it becomes a norm in Nigeria that if you are a president or a senator, being it, okay, let me look at something. Let me show you something. We have, if you go to Nigerian Senate, majority of those people are people who served as governors in their various states. 80 years. 80 years of nothing.
And you still want to
Right?
be there.
After 8 years, they went into the house. They stayed for another 8 years.
What are we doing?
Sir, 16 years. If we give birth to a child, that's 16 years. He's a boy already, right? Getting into university. And that child is coming out without hope of he's going to get a job tomorrow after finishing school. But here you have some selected few who have embezzled. I want to give you a very good example. I have a governor of Benue State, George Akumen. He was a governor for 8 years. After 8 years, and it is a very pathetic situation, because you go to that state and you look at it and you don't see things happening. And this person still have the nerves to go into the Senate and still want to win election again to go into the Senate. What can we do to stop these things? Because this is where the problem is. The problem is not the youth. I know they have their own problem, which we're going to talk about it in a bit. But what is the problem with these leaders?
You see, with the leaders, we've said one thing, going back to the foundation, selfishness. And another thing I also feel like is this. When you know the weaknesses of the people, you actually want to take advantage of their weaknesses to get to your own goal. This is what I mean to say.
True.
Poverty is everywhere. So we know the norm in Nigeria. I come, I offer you money to get your vote. The moment I get your vote, I trash you away. And what we're still saying is this: if people don't have the genuine cause, if you know that you are not called into this thing, why are you going there? And it's until when we can all stand up as a people and say, irrespective of the fact, irrespective of the hunger, irrespective of anything, our vote is our voice.
True.
Why will I put somebody in power for 8 years and the same person comes to me another and is seeking for 4 more years because he's going to give me one-time food, and I still give him my vote because of what I'm going to eat? Go to the scriptures. Esau, for one morsel of food, did what? Sold his
Sold his
birthright.
birthright.
That is what is actually happening to us. We know it. The handwriting is clearly written on the walls like this. Yet we just want to say, because of what I actually want to get now. I come to you, I say, hey, Mr. Akura, do you know what's going to happen? I need you to help me mobilize 20,000 youths, and I'm going to give a contract of 100 million. Ah, it's fine.
They
You
used to
start
even
running.
say, and let me just draw your attention to something different once again. One guy came. I saw something on Instagram that I was moved by. The guy was calling Nigerian youth. He was saying that they're useless, they're fools, they don't have sense, they don't know anything. And then he backed that up with something very important. He said that Showore, who called for a revolution in Nigeria, is being imprisoned. And the youth are not coming out to support them. Their voices are not being heard. But there is a program that is so baseless, that does not even have any, the program is not informative, it's not educative, it's nothing when it comes to Nigerian people.
But a lot of money
The
said
big
youths are
brother,
there.
they call
and all
it
those
Big
things.
Brother Nigeria. And now in that program, the guy says that 250 million people voted.
Wow.
The organizers made a 7 point something billion naira out of that program. Is that not misplaced priorities of
Now,
our youth?
that's another thing I also feel like we also need to get into. The youth. So many youth have actually lost track. And all these things we call socialism and the likes have actually taken over. Most of the youth, they don't know where they are going to. And look at it. Let's say let's look at it. As individuals, we know what we stand for, we know what we believe in, we know our priorities.
Yes.
Anything that is not informative, educative, why do I want to waste my time?
time.
Why will I sit down and watch some people doing whatever they are doing there in the public, and I use my money to vote for them?
Vote.
And we have a major problem
vote is
in the
30
country.
naira.
And you can imagine, we have a major problem in the country about leadership. Imagine if we have these 250 million people stand as one and say we say no to this thing. I'm telling you, the no remains no.
Now
but our priorities are
what
lost.
the guys also say is that if you can use that money, imagine 7 billion naira, will go a long way fighting the government to do the right thing. We're not asking you to go and start do anything that is illegal. So what am I saying is that if we can use 7 point something billion and put it into something constructive, something that we will know that tomorrow our future is bright.
So can I just come in there? Let's ask ourselves this honest question. Are we ready for the change?
That's a very tough one also. I think a lot of us, especially as youth, we're
Are we prepared mentally?
We're easily deceived, and that is a very bad. We have to stay focused and understand the things that are very important to us. That is why today you have in Nigeria, every child that is coming out believe that until I go to America, until I go to UK, when they hear Canada, they hear Australia, until I go there. Because the mentality is that until you go to those countries that are already developed, that is where you will get things. But we can actually put all these energies into, trust me, being outside is very difficult. It is you can see instances where we have xenophobic attacks and all that.
Yeah.
These are things that when you go outside, these are humiliations that you face outside. So I think it's very important that if we can channel our energy in the right direction and try to force the government to do the right thing. Let us make the government understand that we put them there. You understand?
Right.
Yeah.
And then our votes can actually speak. And then to the viewers, we'll just go on a short break right now. And we'll still be back with more for you because we still have so many matters rising, controversial US pastor deported from Rwanda, and we still have a lot more. Please don't change the dial. We will be right back with more for you. Still on Matters Rising with Emmy, Akura, and myself. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Myself and my co-host Akinkunle Akinola, we're still here talking about matters arising on the continent and beyond. We're talking about things that are happening. We've seen lately that in America, they want to impeach their president Donald Trump for the fact that he called a Ukrainian leader to investigate his political opponent, and that is ongoing. But we're not going to be talking about that now. We're going to be talking about the pastor who got deported. Let's look at this issue. I'm sure you look at it very well, and you look at a pastor. I mean, I admire Paul Kagame. Rwandan president. To me, I feel he's a leader, African leader. I don't care what anybody says, but I look at him as someone who have the interest of his people at heart and the continent at large. So, what do you think about this story?
You see this story after a careful observation. I looked at it from one side. You know when you have the letter 3 or W. Let me use W. If I'm facing this way, it's a W.
W, yeah.
To you, it's a hem. You understand? So trying to look at it from both sides. I'm not trying to say I'm in between or whatever. We call a spade a spade. Now, the pastor was actually deported from Rwanda just because of an incident that happened 2018, where one of his pastors actually made a reckless statement that women are evil. For me, having just studied that, I'm like, why would this person say that women are evil? So I tried to dig deeper to see. And the pastor of the church actually said something. And I'm like, okay, can it be this way? Can it be that way? And he said, the pastor, Nicholas, that actually made the statement was actually teaching. And he compared the church to women. And we know that is actually biblical because the Bible makes us to understand that Jesus is coming for his bride. And we know that the church is the bride, a bride without spot or wrinkle. So he's not trying to use, okay, the church as a bride, as a woman, you understand.
Yeah.
And he's not addressing women. He's addressing the bad leaders in the church. So what they now claimed is that the media, rural, they actually took that on women
are
evil. out of context. But however, even if that happens to be the case, when we're dealing with issues, we have to be extremely sensitive.
Yeah, no, but
we don't make reckless statements.
The reckless statement. Now you explain it. A lot of people out there will understand because so many people did not understand that that is what he was talking about. A lot of us thought he was talking about women are evil, and of course you have women who are in politics. You have the first lady of the country of Rwanda is there. You know, so those calls are going to be obviously harsh judgment is going to pass on you. Rather, if you are actually making such comment, and then people interpret it, and that is another thing also with the huge influx of social media, people trying to twist everything you say. People sometimes even misconstrued your words, like you're saying now. The issue we just finished talking about, and now you're coming to this one. The headline was actually a pastor called women evil.
That's right.
And the radio station was closed. You know, so if you don't go deep into it, if you don't understand that this is where the pastor was coming from, you will agree with him or you will agree with the government that the decision taken by the government was right.
You know, Pastor Scoff also mentioned something that these people, before they actually took the decision they took, did they take their time to investigate the matter? Have they taken their time to go and pick the message, sit with the message, and listen to it? Because what is actually claiming, well, only God knows the truth about the matter because we're actually reading reports and we're trying to bring ideas together. He said they only took that part out and they are not dealing with the issue in context. Because he said their own stance still remains, the church is pictured as a woman. And now, he now mentioned three things which I would just want us to quickly look into. The first one, he said, they ordered the closure of the radio station, number one.
Yes.
They said he must make an apology and then a fine of 2 million rand. Taking it from the second one, before you can say to someone to make an apology, that means you're trying to tell the person that the person must consent that he's wrong.
No, but let's look at it also. Sometimes you apologize for things that you're not wrong about just for peace to reign, right? So if you are a pastor and your radio station was closed, and they say to you, you should apologize for something that you didn't do, right? I think the best thing for the pastor was for him to, he was supposed to go on the radio, explain the context in which you are talking about right now. Let him explain this is what a pastor meant when he was talking about this. Play that same message for people to listen to. Don't listen, break it down. And then at the end of it, you will give an apology to the people and say, this is where the pastor was coming from. But you are sorry if people did not understand what he meant by that. And I'm sure by now they would. I mean,
the
there
issue
will
would
be
have been
peace
resolved.
there.
Now, if we look at it from the perspective you actually came in now, as Christians, we apologize whether we're right or
Or
wrong.
wrong.
His own standpoint remains when you're
He's a Christian,
dealing.
a pastor.
He's a pastor. Yeah, that's right. So apologizing should not be a
A
problem.
problem to
But
him.
when you're dealing with the systems of the law, you're dealing with the court. The moment you apologize, it means that you've accepted that you are wrong. The statement out of context was actually taken. As pastor, it's nothing for him to go out there to go and apologize. Okay, my people, this is not what this pastor is saying. This is what he's saying. We apologize for misinterpretation. We apologize for what is going on in the social media. You come out and you explain all of those things. And that is number one. And he is still standing his ground that if he apologizes, it means that the statement is true, that women are evil.
Sometimes you like I said, I reiterate that point that sometimes you apologize even
For
when you're not
pestering.
wrong. We have these what was, like you said earlier, we don't know, we were not there. We can only hear what is coming to us via social media and news platforms, and we hear that this pastor was deported. But looking at it as a man of God, did he try to make peace with the people involved? Is another thing that you need to look at. If he tried to make peace, if he had tried and he did not succeed, obviously we're going to hear that from him also, that I called them a lot of times to apologize and they said no. Another thing you need to look at, which I feel coming from the part of the government, is that this is an American pastor.
That's right.
And the government might feel that this guy is trying to undermine our system. I don't know if you're getting
That's
what
right.
I'm coming from. And with that alone, we give them that power or that mindset that you feel because you're an American pastor,
You
you
come
can
in,
come into our land, undermine our
our
laws,
people and
you
the
know,
laws
and
and
then
all those
undermine
things.
and talk down on our people, and then refuse to apologize because you feel you're superior to us. You know, so I'm just looking at it from a different.
Looking at it broadly speaking, I think the foundation still remains everywhere in the world, irrespective of geographical location. Any place in the world or any country you find yourself in the world, you respect
But
the laws of the land and you
Simple.
respect the people.
People.
And one thing that I've learned by experience, people are extremely sensitive.
Very,
The
very.
sensitivity of the people in my country is different to the sensitivity of the people in South Africa.
Especially when it comes to accepting our diversities.
That's
You understand
another
what I'm
issue.
saying?
Yeah.
When you come, that you're coming and maybe even race
That's right.
comes into play also.
That's
you
right,
look at
yeah.
it and you feel, okay, this person, because of his color,
And his
think
skin tone
he
and the
is
likes,
superior to me. And
And
then
then
he will undermine
tension.
me.
Yeah.
And then there's that tension. And then you're coming into a country also that is just coming out from a lot of things.
A lot of things.
Remember the genocide that took place in Rwanda, and then between the Houthis and
and the Houthis and the Houthis,
so you if you look at that, you understand that there is so much involved, and if you are there, you should be able to do what we spoke about this on this show last week, where we talk about me being in South Africa. I am a slave to South Africa. Let me just use that.
word, for
Let me
lack of
just use
better
that
word,
word.
yeah.
Yeah, before people would misconstrue that and start
And
saying
take
a
it
lot of
out
things. Yeah, a
again.
lot of things. But why do I say that? I say the law of South Africa is what
What
guides
governs
me
you here in
South
South
Africa. If the South African say to me, I should not be outside by 7, I'm not going to be outside by 7 because I have to respect the land in which I live. If I would really want the land to favor me, so I think the pastor also, in as much as we blame the government and a lot of things are emanating from that camp of maybe the president being a dictator, don't want this pastor because it's white and all that. But we also need to look at the pastor. Did you try making peace with this?
On that aspect, the pastor, if you look at it, before he was arrested, he tried to put a conference together to bring in people, and he made he sent out a public statement trying to explain what happened and how everything transpired. However, the case
the conference was actually to debunk some of the things that the government has been saying, and then he is directly challenging the government.
No,
You understand what I'm saying?
You can see elements of that in his statement, and I'm not trying to support the pastor. I'm not trying to support this person.
Yeah.
But the best option would have been for them to actually investigate the matter properly, and having investigated the matters properly, then we now take measures. If The guy actually said, women are evil. What are you trying to say? You know, that is another word for misogyny, which is hatred against women. Go back to the foundation,
Yeah.
the beginning of the beginnings. God created man and woman in his own very image. So that means the woman is not less superior to you, to the man. They are to be helpmates. So
Yeah.
irrespective of what the pastor is actually preaching, then that's another thing that pastors also need to look into.
Very
You don't
careful.
you don't
Choose your words
you
wisely
choose your
also.
words wisely. You don't use let me say, lack of better word please, you don't use examples of a weaker vessel to justify your message. You understand?
True.
I don't use maybe your weaknesses to justify my message, because at times the way we process information differs. To some people, I say something to you, you internalize it, you build
Then
your
you
walls
build your
around
words
it.
around it.
You
And
understand? And there are some people, you speak the word to them, they
they'll
take
just
it,
take
they
it.
trash it,
And
and the likes.
and
So it talks
the way
about the
we analyze
sensitivity of the
people
people.
and the way we analyze this thing matters also. Look at what they say. And this is what CNN came out. It says spokesperson for Rwanda, Directorate General of Immigration and Immigration, told CNN that Greg was deported back to the United States due to failure to comply
With Rwanda laws.
with the laws of Rwanda. And you know, Greg emailed Rwanda journalists on Sunday inviting them to a conference where he said he would discuss the closure of his radio station and court cases. This is my point. Now look at this. When you look at this, when he inviting journalists, right, to discuss, you are not supposed to be inviting journalists to discuss the closure and the cases. Like you said, the cases that are in court. What you're supposed to be doing, this is in my own understanding though, going to the government, trying to make peace with the government, trying to talk to the government. Let everything, resolve everything with them amicably. And then you come to the public and you say, it was a huge misunderstanding between you and the government. But everything has been
resolved. Yeah.
And now you guys are back again. But for the fact that those people felt, you know, you are calling a press conference after you refuse to apologize for a mistake. You know, if you look at that mistake, the mistake was not from him. Because
That's right.
a church member who is even a citizen of the country who made that statement.
Nicholas,
And
that's
so
right.
what I would do, I think as a leader, we need to learn a lot from this, because if I'm a pastor and a pastor of a church, and any of my followers make a mistake, I think I'll be able to come out there and apologize for that mistake.
Right. You know, one of the
know.
things I've actually seen with our church is this. If somebody mounts the pulpit now and makes a blunder, it's there and there and there that is being corrected. There and there and there.
Which is very important. So that the
Which
whole
is
thing will not
important,
escalate
so that
beyond
people
that.
won't go home with notions, with bad mentalities and the likes. And another thing I also see from his statement is that he's trying to stand his ground. And do you know that what works in America may not work in Rwanda?
Here, you know, there you have rights,
Systems.
you have
See,
systems.
it's
you
part
have
of
a
what
lot
he actually said.
things.
Look at one of the things he said.
Yeah.
He's talking about right. He said, do they have the right to take away his freedom of conscience and freedom of speech and force him to condemn an innocent man? Sir,
Can
the
you
thing
see
that
is can you see the arrogance displayed by the people by that statement?
Yeah, that's very, very correct. What works in America may not necessarily work in Rwanda. So you need to understand, that's our center point. Understand the laws. Study the people. Paul said something, I was in Rome, I behaved like a Roman so that I can win them. You don't go to Rome from the United States and impose the laws of the United
It's
States
not
on
going to
them.
work.
Understand their laws. If they say this and this and this, as a pastor, because you actually want to win them, you drop your rights.
True. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Because I was expecting this pastor to come out and then they're not saying you should condemn your person.
No.
Condemn the pastor. But what you were saying to you is that on behalf of my pastor, I apologize for whatever it is that he said. But this, let me explain. You know, in the first, he was not supposed to even wait longer than this. He was supposed to explain, because this thing happened like years back, last year or whatever. So he was supposed to actually apologize. Tell them this is what this pastor meant when he made this comment.
Yeah.
The pastor was actually talking about we as a church. And the church comprises of men and women, children, youth, whatever. That is what a church is. And when the pastor made a statement of we church being a woman, truly we're evil. Because if you look at the Bible says that the heart of a man is
desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Who can know it? No one except God in heaven. So if our hearts are wicked, we as people, as a church, we're evil. That is what he said.
That's what he's trying to say.
That is what he's trying to say. But then if you're trying to say that, you're supposed to explain to the people that making reference to a woman was actually a very bad thing
It's
for
a
us
bad
to
thing.
do.
That's right.
We're supposed to use the church instead of talking about men. And another thing you also need to look at is that they've been trying to just make sure that some of the churches that they have, you must make sure you have the qualification and you apply to the, the authority, and then you are given you are given permission for you to open a church and operate a church in Rwanda.
You see, even not in Rwanda only. Let's be sincere. This is one of the things that we actually mentioned. I was in a program with a pastor, and one of the things we actually mentioned, and I asked him, is that I'm not trying to condemn the church. The church is the body of Christ, and the church is what Jesus Christ actually died for.
Died
We need
for.
to understand the church of the living God. You cannot fight the church of the living God.
Yeah.
But in whatever country you find yourself as a pastor, follow the laws. Like, you know what is happening now? Some people, I just carry my bag now. I'm a missionary. I won't even get right permission from whoever. I just
You
put my
just stand
tent.
because you
And
think
no,
you
no,
are
no, no, no.
no, no, no.
It's not
It's not
acceptable.
acceptable.
What is right in every approach is you get the rights you need to operate.
Operate.
If they say to you, you must go and register with the religious people for them to operate, for you to operate your
Go
church,
ahead and do
go
that.
and do it. Because some of all these things, mostly in African countries, because of the false prophet, the false pastors we have, we've seen people giving people grass to eat, putting kerosene, and they want to protect their citizens. Sir, do we want to blame them for protecting their citizens
No,
if
no,
you're
no,
going
we
there?
don't. We don't.
We cannot blame them for trying to protect their citizens. However, you go to them, even now, in some countries now, they want to ask you who actually commissioned you into ministry. Let's say, for example, you say this person commissioned you, they go to that person.
Person to
Because
find
they
out.
actually want to bring the chain to know that, okay, this person is a genuine person. I don't know, there was another clip I watched. A woman was seated, maybe paralyzed. A pastor picked that woman up and is
It
this
was a
wrestling
wrestling.
mania? So, sir, if you happen to be the president of that country,
That
how
country,
will you
trust
feel
me,
that
you are not going to
somebody
be
came from another country,
country
did that to your
to your
citizen?
citizens, and
I'm not going to open my eyes and accept it.
actually, I agree with what you're saying, and we need to also understand that some of these leaders are trying to protect their people, because some of these people becomes very gullible when it comes to issue of religion, because they come and then pastors are performing miracles that are not supposed to perform. We've seen incidences in South Africa where you have those incidents where people trying to wake people from the dead and all that, and this thing that has actually been a problem to the society. And in Rwanda, this pastor went there thinking he's an American pastor. Why not say whatever it is that he wants to say
No,
on his radio? No, it's
you don't
not
do that.
allowed. When you are in a country, the first thing that will make you prosper in that country is when you respect that country and you respect the laws of that country. That is the only thing that
No, that's actually a profound statement, and it's just quite unfortunate that we don't have enough time to actually discuss this matter in depthly. But if possible, if time permits us, maybe we'll have a follow up on it,
follow up
because
on
we know
it.
that
Yeah.
developing stories will actually come. But the point and the emphasis we're trying to make, whether you're a pastor or whoever it is that you are, you need to follow the laws governing the country in which you're actually going, because you said you are a missionary. You're taking the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ into a place. Even Jesus Christ, everywhere he went, he obeyed the laws of the land.
True.
So by you actually going against the law of the land, that means you're trying to preach another religion, which is not Christianity. Christianity is not a system that fights the people you actually want
You
to
want to
preach to.
preach.
First thing, you need to accept the people, accept them, accept their culture. Then you now start telling them the things that they actually need to do. And on the final note, before we actually call it a wrap, women are not evil. We know that we have some people that by promiscuity and the likes, they are there, but we are not to condemn them. Even the same as the church, we still have the true church of
Worshippers.
God, the living church of God. We still have it, in as much as we have fake pastors, and this is part of the signs of the end times. We are in the end times. And I want to say to you, as a woman out there, you're watching this program, the Bible makes us to understand in Proverbs chapter 31 about a virtuous woman. And it said, don't let anybody demean you. Women, you are not evil. It says, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Go and quantify what rubies is. Your price is far above rubies. Don't allow anybody talk you down. Don't allow anybody speak you down.
True.
You are a precious material that God actually gave to the man. Not that you are in subjection to that man, or not that the man rules over you. However, you are there to help that man. Without you, that man will not accomplish his vision and his mission here on earth. Women, you are not evil. And Emmy, I actually believe we've actually spent an awesome
It
time
was a
today. It
very
was really
nice and fun topic to talk about. You know, we have some of these controversial topics, and like you say, we don't have much time to
time
talk about
to
it.
talk about
But if time permits, next time
next time
we'll
we're
do a
going
follow
to.
up on them.
But before we actually go, your parting shots to the viewers.
Well, I'm just saying, like you've said it all. When you live in a country, make sure you respect the laws of that country. That is the only way in which that country can be able to favor you and bless you. But if you bring the arrogance that where you're coming from America, UK, Canada, wherever you're coming from, you'll be deported like the Rwandan pastor.
You'll be deported like the Rwanda
You'll be
pastor.
deported and you go back to America. You know,
That's
it's
true.
as simple as that. Respect them. Let them not see that you're undermining their laws, and then you're taking advantage of that people.
Thank you so much. It's actually
you
been
so
an
much.
awesome time being with you on our conversation today, and it's actually insightful, it's thoughtful,
Yeah.
it's inspiring, it's informative, it's educative, and I want to believe that to the people that have actually watched today, you'll be able to digest some of all these things and you bring matters into context. You don't take any issue out of context. You deal with issues holistically, then that will give you a clearer and a better picture as to the matters arising. And we're still here for you on Matters Arising. Myself and Emmy Akura Adaa, and I want to believe that you ponder on some of all these things, you digest them, then you'll be able to encourage the next person beside you as to how the person needs to portray life and how we need to process information whenever information comes our way. And we still want to say to you, don't change the dial. RTM is there for the season. We really want to appreciate you for the time you spent to watch this program. And we will say we catch you next time, still on this program, Matters Arising. Thank you.